Hi, I'm Randall in Texas.
And I'm Matt in Michigan. Today, as we head into 2020, we're taking a look back at some of the films Randall and I watched in 2019. We're going to give you our takes on what were our favorites, what performances we liked, and ones that we didn't like so much. This probably goes without saying, but there are going to be some spoilers in this video. We'll have a list of the movies that we talk about down below, so if you can look through that before, and you can see what, if you haven't seen some of those movies, you know what spoilers to avoid. So, Randall, first question we're going to go with, what movie in 2019 did you wish you had seen?
Alright, so 2019 was a busy movie. Seems like the years are just getting more and more packed. A couple of the movies that I definitely wish I had seen is The Joker. I just didn't get time to see it. I will see it. It's coming out now on Blu-ray, so I'll get my chance to see it. I also really wanted to see The Lighthouse and Midsommer. Midsommer is actually a film I have. I just haven't sat down and watched it yet. The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson in it looked really interesting, and I wish I had seen that. And honestly, the other real big one that I wanted to see and didn't get a chance to see was Doctor Sleep.
Totally agree with The Lighthouse. That's another one that I had on my list as well that I wish I would have seen. In the local theaters, it was only in for a couple weeks, and sadly I missed it. Should have gone and seen it when I had the chance to do that. Another one that I wanted to see was Parasite. Exact same situation, only in theater for a few weeks. Heard a lot of good things about that. A Korean film. Another one that I was really looking forward to, and I'm surprised I didn't go see, was Jojo Rabbit. I like a lot of stuff, Taika Waititi does, and this was one I definitely had circled down for something I wanted to see. One I'm putting in now, not for being a good film, but because of how much bad I'm hearing about right now, maybe Cats. I hear that's just an experience, a bad experience, but maybe a bad experience you want to go to. So
Actually,
those are what I wish I would have seen.
As I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, she goes, "I'm gonna go see Cats." I'm like, "Don't go see it." She goes, "It's gonna be awful."
Sometimes they're just so bad they're good. So Cats is probably one that I would have gone and seen. Should have gone and seen.
Okay. So moving on from the films that we wish we had seen, what was your most anticipated movie this year that you did see, and did it live up to that anticipation?
One that I was looking forward to, I think everyone was looking forward to, was Avengers Endgame and stuff. And I still think it's a really good movie. Infinity War was just so good, but Avengers Endgame, I guess, didn't fully live up to the expectations. I don't know, it's a really good movie, so can't vouch it. I mean, it was so, I think everyone was really looking forward to it, so it had high expectations. I guess, my runner-up to that would have been The Joker. Another one, I think it's still a good movie, but I was just, that's one that I had circled too.
For me, I had two films that were just definitely my most anticipated. One, just like yours, was definitely Avengers Endgame. And I think it mostly lived up to the anticipation for me. I have some quibbles with it here and there, but it was definitely my most anticipated movie of the year, and it more or less did what it needed to do to cap off that storyline. And the second is Star Wars Episode 9, and I shouldn't have got my hopes up so much for that one. Make sure to check out our spoiler-free and or spoiler review of Star Wars Episode 9 when you get a chance. It just didn't feel very much like it was a great ending for that series.
As being a Star Wars fan, it should have been Star Wars, but at the same time, I didn't have huge expectations going into it, so I wasn't really disappointed about that. Randall, most underwhelming films of 2019 for you?
This one's probably going to come as a little bit of a surprise. So my runner-up is John Wick 3, Parabellum. I didn't like it that much because it's just 2 hours of exactly the same as John Wick 1 and John Wick 2. And for some people, that's great. It's perfect. But for me, I was just like, I'm looking for something a little bit different. And this one's probably even more... People are going to say, well, what's wrong with him? Us. I really enjoyed Get Out. Thought it was really well done, and even though it has some weird transfer yourself into another person's brain, hypnosis style, crazy stuff kind of going on there, it was still enjoyable and it made sense inside the world that it set up. Us set itself up almost as if it's close to our world, and the United States government has set up these tethers. They live underground in pre-positioned locations, apparently. And for each real person that's a United States citizen up above, there's one tether down below. And I can get behind that. What I can't get behind is that the world was completely unable to cope with with these tethers when they came up. I'm like, we have guns, they have scissors. Or how does the tether know where to come up? How many people are constantly traveling? I guess this businessman from Los Angeles who happens to be in New York, I don't have to worry about his tether. So it lost me because there were so many jumps it asked me to take as a member of the audience. It was beautifully filmed, and I still enjoy the atmosphere, and Lupita's performance in it is outstanding. She does both herself and her tether very, very well. But it asked too much from me.
Me with Us, I guess I didn't have too much expectations for it. I'm not a big horror film, too, and I didn't see Get Out. So, Us, I guess, was okay. For me, I guess... Oh, man. I am going to go horror with this, though. My runner-up, It Chapter 2. It Chapter 1 I liked a lot, and It Chapter 2 was just extremely underwhelming for me. But most underwhelming film, I should have known better, but Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I liked the previous Godzilla film, so I had some hopes for this one. If all you want to see is monsters fighting each other, I mean, it has that, and that's the best part of the movie, but, man, anything involving the humans is just awful. God, awful.
This is one of those things where the studio apparently listened to the strongest criticism and didn't make the right move, in my opinion. I agree with the humans. Almost all the human parts are terrible. But when you go back and watch Godzilla, the 2014, I think it is, Godzilla, when they relaunched it, the the criticism was, there's too much humans and not enough Godzilla. So now they've course corrected, but way far in the wrong direction. All right, so instead of underwhelming film, Matt, what's your biggest surprise film?
All right, so runner-up, it was a movie I didn't hear about too much before. Fighting with My Family. Enjoyed that movie a lot. I mean, it's not the greatest film or anything, but I enjoyed it from start to finish. But the one that takes cake for me is Shazam. This was a movie that I was not looking forward to. I wasn't even going to see this, and then at the last minute decided to go see it, and I enjoyed it. It was a good film.
I have two. One runner-up, Spider-Man Far From Home. I felt, as a movie that came out after Endgame, it did a really good job of moving us to Europe, number one, get us away from big locations in the United States, New York, etc. And it just made the story more personal about Peter Parker and his having to deal with Tony being gone, and he doesn't deal with it well. Spoiler for that. But also at the very end, finally something interesting happened in the Marvel Universe. Something real interesting happened. Is Mysterio is just like, oh, Spider-Man's Peter Parker. What the what? You know, so that was fun. But my biggest surprise was Ad Astra. And I think it's because I didn't know what to expect going into Ad Astra. Was it going to be hard science fiction? Was it going to be a big space explosion? Like the way it was advertised didn't really give away what it was going to be. And I loved it. The cinematography was great. Brad Pitt's performance was pretty good. I wouldn't say it was fantastic, but it was what it needed. And it's the rare Hollywood movie that lets you hear the internal dialogue. So a lot of it is voiceover from Brad Pitt's character just thinking or making log entries. It's not very much people speaking to each other. It was a refreshing science fiction movie. Didn't have a ton of explosions, just a nice science fiction, hard sci-fi is what I call it, kind of like 2001. It won't be for everyone, but for me it was really enjoyable.
All right, so we went with some big surprises. Now we're going to go back to the bad. What were the worst overall films of 2019?
There's so many to pick through. My first one is Rambo: Last Blood. I'm a fairly big Rambo fan. I really enjoy, especially the first three films. They work really well together. You have this character coming back from Vietnam, etc., and everything he's dealing with, and he becomes a superhero. And then Rambo: Last Blood, there's no connection to what's going on with his past. There's no connection to anything that's going on in his past. It was incredibly disappointing. But without a doubt, the worst movie for me was Hellboy. Hellboy, it was like it didn't even try. It was like they were trying to do the Hellboy with Ron Perlman, except for they did every single thing worse. How can the graphics, the special effects from a movie made in 2019 be worse than a movie that was made in 2003? How can the costume be worse? How can the hand, like the artificial prosthetic, be worse than it was over a decade and a half ago? The story was awful. The cinematography wasn't that good. The aforementioned special effects, not that good. Just don't go watch Hellboy. Unless you're watching it to laugh at it.
Me, I skipped out on both of those movies, and my worst movie is one I've already mentioned, so I'm not going to go too much more into it again. It is Godzilla, King of the Monsters, but I guess I would say my dishonorable mention is a movie I just saw recently on Disney+, Noelle.
I would like to take this moment to say that if you're hearing meows in the background, my cat's being spastic outside. Just, meow. You're going to hear it.
That's how cats are, but yeah, Noelle, for people who haven't seen, to me it's a not as good version of Elf, be my opinion on that one.
Well, we all know my opinion about Elf. If you haven't, go watch our Jingle All the Way review. All right, so obviously we have our worst movies of the year out of the way. What is your two best movies of the year?
So for these, I would call them probably like 1A, 1B. Ford v Ferrari, I think that's probably my 1A. And number 2 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The reason I put Ford v Ferrari first as 1A, I like movies that make you feel something, and I had a lot of feels in this movie, whether it's like sad, excitement, wonder kind of thing. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think has some of my favorite scenes of the year. I can pick different scenes. I'm like, I really like that. And it had some, some suspense in some areas too. I didn't know quite how things were going to go. Like, how close was Tarantino going to go with what actually happened, or how is he going to change, his own spin on history, kind of like the Inglourious Bastards. But yeah, Ford v Ferrari, actors and stuff were great in that film, as were in both films, but I just think I had, more feelings and stuff watching Ford v Ferrari.
Yeah, I agree specifically with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but you have to admit that he gave it away in the title. He's literally telling you it's a fairy tale.
Yup.
So, I really like that. It's not in my top 2, but if I had 3, it'd be number 3. So my runner-up is Knives Out, and I know I keep pointing to previous reviews, but if you haven't seen our Knives Out review, make sure you watch the Knives Out review. It's very well done. The characters are very well done. The story is tight. It just makes sense. There's very few, if any, legitimate plot holes. It's fun. It's good to watch. But my most favorite movie is like yours. It's Ford v Ferrari. Christian Bale just disappears into his role in that film, just like he usually does in any role that he does. And the story's super easy to follow. The chemistry between him and Matt Damon, Carol Shelby, Matt Damon's character is playing, it just works out. It's got great cinematography. It doesn't stray far from the truth. And here's my thing about when you're making historical movies, but they're not really documentaries, is if it's a story worth telling, you shouldn't have to go that far away from what actually happened for it to be dynamic, for it to matter. Apollo 13 is a really good example. Yes, they go a little bit far, but most of it's historically accurate. And the same with Ford v Ferrari. Excellently done.
Well, I'm actually going to use your response to kind of transition to the next one. We were going to go with best performance, and my honorable mention is Christian Bale in Ford v Ferrari. I think it's really good. And we were talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood too, where we have Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, and those two were almost cast in Ford v Ferrari instead of Matt Damon and Christian Bale. And I think it worked out best for both films. I'm glad that we got Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Christian Bale, he's my runner-up, for best performance. But my number one overall performance, regardless of whether you like the movie or not, it's Joaquin Phoenix as Joker. Just watching him act, some of the things for, people who haven't seen the movie, like how they explain Joker's laugh and how it's involuntary, and Joaquin actually struggles through these laughs, physically struggles through these laughs. You see how much of a hardship is for him. Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix for me, best performance of the year.
Since I haven't seen the Joker, I can't even go there. You're probably right. But in my list, you're going to see another method actor. So my runner-up, I actually have a tie for first place. So I'll just go with my runner-up is Bill Skarsgård in It Chapter 2. Even though the movie does leave a little to be desired, his performance as Pennywise is great. Especially that scene underneath the bleachers with the little girl, he's just anticipating, and it's really, really well done. He gets a lot in that film because of all the flashback scenes, so I think he did a really, really good job with that. The movie itself notwithstanding a little bit underwhelming. But I'm going to tie for first place, and it's already mentioned Christian Bale. Christian Bale in Ford v Ferrari. He just becomes the role. You don't look at it and see Christian Bale. You look at it and you see the role he's playing, and that's pretty much true for everything that he does. When he did Batman, you don't really look at it and say, oh, that's Christian Bale. It's like, no, he's playing Bruce Wayne, or his American Psycho, his Bateman in that. You don't really see Christian Bale. And it's the same in Ford v Ferrari. He just absolutely nails it. You believe he's a race car driver. You get it. And my tie for that is actually Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's always, in my opinion, very difficult for an actor to play an actor. And you can see the very stark differences between when Leo's playing his character and when his character is playing a character. It's the little girl in one scene says, "That was the best acting I've ever seen." And he's tearing up, he's crying, he goes, "Thank you." It was really good. I enjoyed his performance. I don't think the film would have been the same without him, and you kind of alluded to that. You're happy that Once Upon a Time in Mexico got Brad Pitt and Leo, and Ford v Ferrari got Matt Damon and Christian Bale. Yeah, he helps make that movie. It's very, very good.
One of my favorite scenes in all the movies, I would say, in this year is when Leo is back in his trailer because he just ruined a scene, that he was filming, and he's threatening himself in the mirror, looking at himself in the mirror, and threatening him is you don't get this right kind of thing, this is it, I'm gonna kill you kind of thing. So yes, one of my favorite scenes in the entire year. Leo, good job.
Yeah, very, very good job. So that's all of our categories for this year. Maybe do something different next year. We'll see what happens. But to follow up with all of that, we want to look ahead to 2020 and say, what are our most anticipated films, or what are we looking forward to and seeing in 2020?
So, me, I guess this is kind of like, of the trailers that have come out so far,
Yes,
what is
yes,
the most interesting kind of thing? Some, granted, there hasn't been, like, a trailer out for it yet. I'm just kind of going on, like, previous iterations of this. But, Wonder Woman 1984, I'm not tired of the 80s movies yet, movies set in the 80s yet. The Blue Monday song in the trailer, I mean, that's been stuck in my head since it came out. I'm hoping DC does well with Wonder Woman again, so I'm looking forward to that. Another one, I think mainly it's because of who's doing it. Tenet, the latest film by Christopher Nolan. I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan, so I'm interested to see that. Yes, it's another movie with guys in suits in the trailer, but, you know, so we'll see how that one goes. And then these other two are, like, sequels / remakes from older movies. One has got to be Top Gun Maverick. You know, I don't know if the trailers necessarily look great or anything, but Tom Cruise has done well in movies recently. I've been surprised. So his movies have been like pleasant surprises, so I want to see how he does in this one. And then
The Mummy?
No. Mummy, no. That's not what I was thinking. More of like the Mission Impossible movies. Yeah. So, and then the other one, I haven't looked much into it, but you know, I like the previous iterations of this. I love this world. Dune. I want to see Dune. Bring it on.
Yes. So these are in no particular order for me, but Dune is definitely one of my most anticipated films of 2020. I'm not a huge fan of the 1980s version of it with Sting, etc. It's a terrible recreation of the story. I know some people might have a different feeling for that. I really like the 2000 miniseries from the Sci-Fi Channel. Not sci-fi, sci-fi. And I'm really hoping Denis Villeneuve can do something spectacular with it. It'll probably be 3+ hours long, but totally worth it. No Time to Die, the new James Bond movie. I can't say I have super high hopes for it, but I'm looking forward to it. The trailer looks like a mess. It looks like a mad mess. But I'm still looking forward to it. It's a James Bond movie.
That's probably the only reason I didn't put that on my list, is kind of with the trailer. Granted, you know, it kind of goes like good, not so good James Bond, good, not so good James Bond. So we should be getting, I mean, Spectre was a little bit of a disappointment for me, so this should be the really good one. But from the trailer, I'm just kind of like, yeah.
I already mentioned Wonder Woman 1984, so I won't go into that. Antebellum, which is, even though I didn't really like Us, I loved Get Out, and I love the way it's filmed, and it's by the same people. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm happy they're doing something different. It's not just, you know, reboot, sequel, etc. So looking forward to Antebellum. And also a kind of, people might laugh, Bad Boys for Life. Bad Boys, the original kind of seminal Michael Bay movie. And then Bad Boys 2 is great up till the very end, and then it just goes off the rails. And I'm like, well, we'll see what happens here. So, Bad Boy for Life. And the last thing on my list is Bill and Ted Face the Music. We're finally getting a Bill and Ted sequel. It's going to be Keanu Reeves in something completely different. Not in a Matrix type situation. Not like karate kung fu. Not anything that you've seen him in for years and years, decades even. So I'm really looking forward to that. All right, thank you for joining us on this rewind through 2019. Looking forward to a great 2020. Make sure that if you like this kind of content, you give us a like, you give us a subscribe. If you want to keep on watching it, it really helps us out. Check out any of our other videos. For right now, I'm Randall in Texas. See you guys.
I'm Matt in Michigan. Have a good day.